Hello everyone, welcome to Voz Andina Specials. Tonight we will talk about game-related learning. The theme of our program will be learning while playing. Definitely, meaningful learning is a key concept for effective learning. What is meaningful varies according to ages and personal interests. However, human being is essentially a ludic being. Therefore, learning linked to ludic methodologies implies meaningful learning to any apprentice. Is it possible to develop any learning from games or ludic methodologies? That question, among others, will be answered tonight by our guest, Dr. Henk Roelofs. Who's our guest? Henk Roelofs was a professor at Northern Hogeschool Leeuwarden Standing, NHL Standing University in the Netherlands. He's an expert in entrepreneurship. He's an international entrepreneurship project advisor at Regional Underway Centrum, Regional Educational Center Van Twente, and CEO of ELA Network. He specializes in innovative learning methods. His web page is www.learninggamesinfo, softskillstest.com, entrepreneurship learning curricula. Welcome, Henk. It's a pleasure to have you here in Radio Voz Andina Internacional and, of course, in Universidad Andina Simón Bolívar.
Gracias.
Henk, what are the educational and pedagogical bases of a game-related learning?
It's already pointed out by my late friend Mark Prensky, who 15 years ago wrote the famous article, which is called Game-Based Learning. You can find it anywhere on the internet. And game-based learning is different from the old teaching, because teaching doesn't imply learning, always. There's a big difference. If you teach, it doesn't imply automatically that there is something learned. That's the big issue. And the difference is shown by actually two different viewpoints. It's push learning, where I tell you what you should learn, and pull learning, well, I learn by myself, learning by doing, and by challenges and by passion. There's a big difference in it.
There are big difference in pushing and pulling. So now, as a teacher, I know what is better for you, and you yourself, you say that I'm pulling whatever I want.
Yeah,
but how comes in this basis the game? Who or how comes game to learn?
No, actually, it's about learning context. A game creates a learning context where pull learning can be realized. That's it. My friends are calling. We have to play in half an hour my simulation games. It's called Learn Games. You can find it on learngames.info. Lots of info also in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And today, learn games means a different type of learning. Nobody's telling you what to do. You do it by yourself. It's guided by passion, and which is something different. Of course, in pull learning, you can be somewhat passionate too. But I think an essential element is if you're passionate and you're in the playful way learning, the effectiveness of the learning process is far larger. That's it.
It's far larger, of course. Then we can say that is it possible to develop any learning from gamification or from ludic methodologies or any? Not only the basic or not only mathematical skills, active school, but others like you do it.
We do it. We do it in half an hour. You will learn to negotiate. You will learn to.
But any is possible. Any.
Mm-hmm. In my view, we develop learn games for operations management, for logistics, for languages, any language. We did Russian with 10-year-old children who learned Russian in 50 minutes. So, and I can prove it because I videotaped it. By the way, I can't distribute it because of privacy reasons. It's not possible nowadays. But we do it. And we also do entrepreneurial learning. And it's very joyful. Actually, the difference, it's a long story, but a week ago I presented the difference between pull learning and push learning by the story of Charles Darwin, which should be interesting for Ecuador, because the difference of pull learning and push learning was manifest when he visited the Galapagos Islands. Charles Darwin was pushed by his father to learn for medicine, but he didn't like the blood and the crying of patients. He was pushed by his father then, when he returned home, to go to Cambridge and to learn for a job in the clergy, in the church, because he thought there would always be work in the church. But he was as a rich guy. He had the easy life of a student, and he went to lots of museums. And there he got acquainted with a professor in archaeology and these things. And he got a letter from the captain of the Beagle to accompany him on a trip of 3 years to go to around the world of the British Society. And that's and then his pull learning started. Because Darwin was not a biologist. He did nothing at all. He had a bachelor in arts. But nevertheless, he wrote, after his experiences in the Galapagos, he wrote one of the famous books of mankind, The Origin of Species. And it illustrates this experience of Darwin were characterized by 3 elements, which actually are the elements of developing entrepreneurship attitude, made by a famous German professor, Michael Frese. It's called action regulation theory, with 3 elements. And the elements are self-starting, nobody tells you, it's proactive, and it's overcoming barriers. And all 3 elements were characterized in the experience of Charles Darwin. And he learned a lot. And that's what I showed, for example, when I had my presentation last week. I think it's a fantastic story because it highlights the unique experience which Ecuador can provide. And perhaps we will see some unique experience today in our workshops on entrepreneurship.
It's very important what you say. It's like self. No, you decide when you start, but there's kind of motivation or things to do it, or you just wait to do that. Starting.
That's a very good point, my friend. Actually, when I presented it, I said in the action regulation theory of Michael Frese, there was one point missing. You can be the elements of self-starting, proactive, and overcoming barriers are relevant, but only if you have the motivation to do so, and it's called passion. And I think for any learning process, this action regulation theory should be added with the element of passion, because learning without passion doesn't work.
Doesn't work, but let's say if I have a community of students, and how introduce this passion to them, or just wait.
Come on,
just wait. It's not possible, eh?
Come on, my friend. All your students are passionate, but you only have to create a learning context to evoke this passion.
Exactly. You need to find the ways, the meaningful learning they have, the passion, and start with this interest.
I've done so many workshops in Ecuador. Even yesterday at Imatocol, I don't know, can't pronounce the word, Immaculada. There were these young pupils, and they were enjoying it very much, and
it's a kind of combination of passion, ludic sense, and of course the guidance of the teacher, the performer.
Yeah, sure.
That understands.
Yeah. You mentioned the word ludic. Ludic is a unique word invented by a professor, Jon Huizinga, which is a Dutch guy, who wrote in 1938 the famous book Homo Ludens. Homo Ludens at that time was the first word, and the word ludic originally is invented by him.
This sense of Homo Ludens, all the senses that coming from also the Darwinist perspective, we come from the apes, but apes are super ludic, and that is the essence of ourselves. Human beings, we are very ludic, let's say.
The apes is a little bit difficult because the discussion in Darwin's times was that the Archbishop of Canterbury said that because Darwin never said that humans were not created by God, because he was very religious. And then the Archbishop said that it meant that humans descend from apes, and this was a revolution in the Victorian times, and it created enormous attention for the work of Darwin, and still nowadays people doubt whether the theory of natural selection is valid, and because it is a little of conflict with the creation of mankind and by God, and that's religion, my friend. And religion and science don't always coincide. No, but for me, whatever, if you still want to believe and not believe in natural selection, it's okay for me. It doesn't matter. Science is no religion.
But the essence of Homo Ludens is a key concept to connect this learning while playing. That is very important to connect learning, meaning, passion, interests, and games that develop another different perspective of learning. Now we go to a small pause. We're gonna listen a wonderful song, and afterwards we will come back with Dr. Henk Roelofs talking about learning while playing. Don't go out. Stay with us.
It's okay. Nice. She's coming.
Welcome back, everyone. We are in Voz Andina Specials. Now we are talking about learning while playing with Dr. Henk Roelofs. Dear Henk, what is crucial to take into account for applying that conceptual framework of Darwin, of Homo Ludens, and all the things to learning games? Because you don't develop games. No, it's not a game as cards or so, but it has a concept, a purpose, it has a pedagogical issue involved, it has some theory that are recreated in a game. What is taken into account? What need to be taken into account to apply that concept in your product, in your output?
In my learn games, the essential issue is the human element. Normally, games are computer games where you sit behind your desk or your computer and do it. But in my view, human interaction is essential. Essential for future development, for learning. Learning process also can take place by the computer, of course. But in real life in our society, the human interaction is mostly crucial for creating any added value, whether it's social or economically. So I have developed, in I think 30 years, several learn games. And first was simulations, they weren't even games. And now to make a game where there is a competition element, that's quite difficult. And the first games I made were games about cooperation together in production processes and so on. But this, you couldn't win a simulation. But now, after a decade, I developed the Learn Game Entrepreneurship, which was at first, like we played yesterday at Immacolata or something like that. We played Immacolata. We played it with cash money. But today we will play. But cash money, if you play it, it makes one element not possible, which is instant payoff, and you can't see it immediately. But in the last 3 years, me and my friend Willem have developed an ICT component where we integrate mobile phones, and that's unique because it makes possible that you have instant payoff and see immediately after the game whether you have bought a purchase at a low prices or created a network, earn money, have been working a lot harder, so you can immediately see it's visualized. And we played it in Riobamba, which was very successful. And today we're going to do it at Andina and tomorrow again. So it's something, to be honest, it's unique. Nobody has it. And because, to be honest, it cost a lot of money to develop it. And we did.
You mentioned some minutes ago that you have developed several games.
Yeah.
Please tell us what kind of games, perhaps starting with just pure games. Afterwards, you understand that it's learning games. All the time you were
the goal is always what you learn.
What you learn, learning games.
But what you learn. Different games. We have the language games where you can learn a different language, and I already. We did it with students and even young children of 10 years old. Mm-hmm. We also highly gifted children, because these gifted children just want another type of learning. They don't want to sit down in rows and listen to the teacher. They are curious and they want to be challenged. So we did it with 10-year-old children and taught them, for example, German. And after we tested before and after using Kahoot survey, and we could see an increase of 52% after the game, which is quite a lot on the average. And a week later was quite funny. The teachers did the same Kahoot, and there was an increase of 63%, which is a huge increase in learning. Actually, I started the games because in my academic environment, nobody wanted to believe that learning by playing and learning by a learn game is by far the most effective method. So I took the challenge and said, come on, I can teach you, or you can learn Chinese in 1 hour. Which is, if you say it like this, it's impossible. It's crazy. But nevertheless, we did it because at that time we had Chinese students who spoke Chinese. So with them and Chinese assistants, I had 2 or 3 Chinese assistants at that time. And we made Lagim Chinese. And we tested before and after. And we did it several times. And there was an increase from 0 to 17 words, which is a huge in just 1 hour. And the difference was, because that's an average, the difference was between 6 and 7 and say 38. So 17 words. The funny thing is we did it also at that time with Indian students. We used Hindi, which was not that effective as Chinese. They had 13 words on average. And then we did later, also very funny, I had South Korean students, and we did it. We did the game, La Game Korean. And that was not very successful because there were only 3 or 4 words learned on average. And one of my assistants at that time, we investigated why. And now the reason is simple, as we started in the beginning. It's passion. Nobody wanted to learn Korean. They enjoyed the game fantastically, but while learning Korean, it doesn't bring you anywhere.
The games, as you say, is like the purpose, like the passion, the interest, the meaning.
Yeah, it's the simple what's in it for me issue. If there's not a what's in it for me, don't do it.
And perhaps in that experience is like connecting, let's say, the foreign Chinese in the Netherlands with the locals and this kind of intercultural learning and getting connected.
Yeah, that's what we did. And actually, we added something. It's called reference creation, and reference creation means that it's these are memories which you can't wipe away, and it's like, and we used all our senses, so smelling, tasting, and also the emotional part of my games, positive emotions, and that creates references which you never forget. Like, for example, smelling is very important, and it's a very effective way of communicating. Actually, perhaps you know, a similar, there has been an Indian movie. It's called Slumdog Millionaire.
Or something.
And if you know the movie,
famous 20 years ago,
yeah,
15 years ago.
It's a typical example of reference creation. And you can read, of course, you can read my publications at Academia. It's there.
So there are several issues connected. The one is, say, like the passion or the intercultural issues between Dutch students and Chinese students, the interest of, I would like to know that words in Chinese, but I'm not interested in Korean. Of course, it happens. But connected to the game itself, connected to the learning itself, there are some social skills and intellectual processes developed through this learning process. And while we were launching, you mentioned about that some cooperation rather than competition that can be like shocking of cultural roots or cultural environments, that perhaps you do this in a very competitive United States and there's competition, but in humble or nice or community Riobamba is more like a collaboration. What you can tell about that,
Alexis,
that social skills?
I told you, I wrote it yesterday evening and put it on LinkedIn because me and my friend Jorge Baladas had a discussion because in my game there are different roles. There is a role of suppliers, which is conducted by 6 or 7 persons, and then there are roles of producers who produce Lego towers, also 6 or 7 persons, and then also traders which trade the towers and sell them to the markets. And now what happened was unique because all these 6 producers went to sit together. And then I made a picture of it because it was unique. I've never seen it before. It means that you stick together and they discuss together what to do. And I said, this type of working together is called, in the economic terms, it's called collusion. And it's creating monopolistic behavior, which is forbidden in the European Union, also in the United States, by the way.
Yeah, but for multinationals and companies.
Forbidden. Actually, in Europe, it's also forbidden for very small companies. It's a minimum criteria, but there, and generally, it's forbidden to collude to see the market as in a oligopoly, in a way to cooperate together in a monopolistic way. So it's forbidden. And And my friend Jorge said, this is common in Ecuador. We started to stay together. And they had a special word. It's called Minga.
Minga.
Or
Minga or Minka.
Minga. I didn't know it. And I registered. And actually, because Jorge is also becoming a project leader of AI, artificial intelligence.
Oh, it is, yes.
So I used AI late afternoon to check whether who was right. Am I right with collusion, or was Jorge correct? And the answer with that I was somewhat. We are both right, and it says that the collusion, the cultural collusion, it's called software of collusion, is made possible by the learn game. But that's also a nice story. So we have the cultural element of Ecuador visualized by my learn game yesterday, and it was a unique experience. So that's nice.
It's kind of a matter of further investigation and research, perhaps. Eh?
Yeah, I know. Perhaps we'll see something further on, but you have to be aware that Ecuador sometimes creates unique experiences.
But actually, just a parenthesis, I am reading Pierre Bourdieu book about economic anthropology, and it talks about precisely this cultural and the symbolic meaning of the goods and so on. Dear people of Voz Andina, now we are in the Voz Andina Specials. We are talking with Dr. Henk Roelofs about learning and gaming. We will back soon after this second beautiful song. Stay away with us.
Because we have to go with it.
You need to go, right? Okay. We're here at the Voz Andina Specials with Dr. Henk Roelofs. Henk, please tell us about your work and your learning games initiative. Let's say close connected with this entrepreneurial specialization, because you told us about languages and other stuff, but now you're focusing on entrepreneurial games learning process.
That's good, my friend. In schools or universities, it's seldom you learn something about the key element of entrepreneurial processes. The key element is seeing opportunities. And seeing opportunities is possible in my game, because it's a role game, and each participant has a small competitive advantage, and you have to use your small competitive advantage to create added value. And therefore you have to search your environment and search for opportunities to sell your stuff. Or you have to search for opportunities to buy at low cost. It's also possible. And this interaction process is very turbulent and very chaotic, which is not common in the standard issue of universities, where the rooms, where the lectures are given, are lined up in nice rows and so on. That's not the case in my learn game, as you will experience in half an hour.
I remember last year I participated in your workshop with the students of La Inmaculada, and you have already developed workshops with Ecuadorian students. You are right now telling me about what you did in Riobamba, and we will do it in your workshop. But using this game-related learning, tell us about other experience besides that you told us about Riobamba, about this, because we were talking about one thing is with this cell phone, but the other thing is without. And there are the technology or the process involved are crucial, or simply are additional, or are processes that support but not mainly or crucial in the process.
It's also one of the elements which Mark Prensky meant 15 years ago. If you see technology as a foe, as something that threatens processes, like a smartphone, then you're standing with your back to the future, because smartphones are used by anybody, children from, say, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they are part of society nowadays. If you lose your phone, your mobile phone nowadays, it's more important than use your wallet. So, from a psychological view, in Holland, for example, smartphones are forbidden in lectures, which in my view, of course, is ridiculous, but please don't think that you always should use smartphones. That's not true. But it's like a pencil. Why should you throw away pencils? You have to use pencils when they're useful in writing. By the way, now writing, we had a discussion in our table. Writing is changing too, because people are used to watch with their thumbs on a smartphone to write, and writing with a pencil is difficult nowadays. So, learning has changed, and learning will change. And don't forget that technology, like AI, for example, will change learning processes too. And please, if so, change the learning process to a ludic situation. Make context where learning should be playful. And I think that focus on the positive emotions that you have when you do something as learning by playing, and learning effectively by playing.
Is it possible to do your games without cell phones?
Sure. Yesterday we did it without cell phones. But I told you, the development of cell phones cost me 2 years, and on development testing and so on. It's not easy. We have a new game. It's called the logistic game, or the operations managed game, or as one of my colleagues in Twente said, the cooperation game, where it's totally different, and you have to cooperate to make products. That's something different. But this, though the software is ready, the testing is not ready. Perhaps Universidad Andina will do it. I don't know, but that's a discussion I have to do with the others here. I don't know.
And perhaps there are some insights that will come of all these workshops.
I don't know.
Thank you very much, Henk. Dank je wel, mijn vriend. So,
it's Dutch, my friend.
Yeah, I know.
Dank je wel, alsjeblieft.
Dank je wel, alsjeblieft. So, thank you very much, Henk, for this dialogue with the Voz Andina Specials. Before finishing this interview, would you like to add something? Would you like to underline something? Or
sure. Sure. This is the second time in Ecuador. The first time I was invited by Jorge, and I said, it's all right, but I want to visit the Chimborazo. And we were at the Refugio, and it's been a lifetime experience. This time I was at Riobamba, and I wanted to see El Altar, but unfortunately I didn't see it.
The weather.
So I have to return. Well, but that's nothing worse, is it? It's good to return to Ecuador, isn't it?
Of course, you are very welcome to come back here. And thank you very much for this interview again. And for all of you, my dear friends that are following Voz Andina International, stay with all our programs and broadcasts. Good night to all of you.